You know, they say the best revenge is living well. I used to think that was just a nice quote people put on throw pillows. But sitting here, at my ex-husband's wedding, a wedding he invited me to just to rub my nose in his success, I'm starting to think there's some truth to it. He has no idea who I am anymore. He looks over at me from the head table, sitting next to his new bride, and all he sees is the ghost of the broken woman he threw away 5 years ago. He thinks I'm here, alone and miserable, to witness his grand victory. He's about to find out just how wrong he is, but before we get to the fireworks, and trust me, there will be fireworks, I need to take you back. To understand the ending, you have to see the beginning. And before I do, if you're new here, do me a quick favor and hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. It really helps the channel, and I'd love to know where you're watching from, so drop your country in the comments below. Thank you. Okay, let's rewind. My name is Alara, and when I married Marcus at 23, I was so full of hope it was practically bursting out of me. I believed in the whole fairy tale, that love was enough, that a good woman could smooth out a man's rough edges, that marriage was a team sport. Marcus, wow. He was the kind of handsome that felt like a warning sign nobody wants to read. Tall, charming, with a smile that could talk you into anything. When he proposed, I thought I was the luckiest woman on earth. I was so wrong. The first red flag, looking back, was his son, Leo. Not Leo himself, he was just a sweet kid. It was the way Marcus talked about Leo's mother, Isabel. She was just a fling, a mistake, he'd say whenever I questioned why they were still texting constantly. You're my wife now, Alara. You're my future. I chose to believe him. I made that my full-time job, believing him. I told myself that a good partner accepts the baggage, that this was just part of the deal. The second, much bigger red flag was what happened when we tried to start a family of our own. Month after month, it was the same heartbreaking routine. The hope, the waiting, and then the crushing disappointment of a single line on a pregnancy test. And Marcus, he made sure I knew exactly who he blamed. He'd point to a picture of Leo on the mantle and say, well, I've already got proof I can make babies. So, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Those 4 words became the soundtrack to my life with him. What's wrong with you when dinner was 5 minutes late? What's wrong with you when I asked who was texting him at midnight? What's wrong with you when I finally broke down and said maybe we should both go see a doctor? I'm not going to any doctor, he'd snap. I have a healthy son. That's all the proof I need that everything on my end works just fine. So, I went alone. For a year, I subjected myself to every test imaginable. I let them poke me, prod me, and skin every inch of my body. I sat in cold waiting rooms, drank horrible chalky liquids for imaging tests, and cried in my car in the hospital parking lot more times than I can count. All of it, completely alone, and you know what they found? After all of that? Absolutely nothing. I was perfectly, completely, 100% healthy and fertile. My tests were, and I quote the doctor, textbook perfect. There was nothing wrong with me. I came home that day practically floating. I thought this was it, the breakthrough we needed. I handed him the papers, my hands shaking with relief. Marcus, look. The doctor said I'm perfectly healthy. This means the issue might not be. He cut me off without even looking up from his phone. That's good, babe, he mumbled, his thumbs flying across the screen. Probably texting Isabel. No, Marcus, you don't understand. This means we need to look at other possibilities. Maybe there is no other possibility, he said, his eyes finally meeting mine, and they were ice cold. I have proof walking around calling me Daddy. Don't you dare start that nonsense. The emotional toll was bad, but the physical part was getting worse too. He never left a bruise on my face, he was too smart for that. He cared too much about his image. But he had other ways. A grip on my arm that lingered a little too long. Fingers digging into my shoulders to make a point. Touches that looked like affection to outsiders but felt like a threat to me, but his words cut deeper than any fist ever could. He was an artist of emotional abuse. You're lucky I married you, he'd sneer during fights. Most men don't want a broken woman who can't give them kids. Or his personal favorite, Isabel never had any trouble getting pregnant. Maybe the problem isn't with men. Maybe the problem is you. 6 years. I endured this for 6 years. 6 years of being his emotional punching bag, his scapegoat, and eventually, his bank. It started when his hours at the auto body shop got cut. Suddenly, we were behind on rent, behind on the car payment, behind on everything. His frustration grew, and all of it was aimed directly at me. I'd been saving money since I started my first job. I worked retail, so it wasn't much, but I was frugal. I clipped coupons, skipped lunches, and slowly, painstakingly, I had saved up $15,000. It was my nest egg, my secret safety net. Money for a down payment on a house one day, or maybe for fertility treatments. It was our future. I thought that he found out about it on a Tuesday. I don't even know how. But suddenly he was standing in the kitchen, staring at me with a look I'd never seen before. It wasn't anger. It was hunger. $15,000, he said, his voice quiet. You've been sitting on 15 grand this whole time while I'm out here stressing about bills. I was saving it for us, I stammered, my heart pounding. For our future. Our future is right now, Alara, he said, his energy suddenly shifting. He got excited. This is perfect timing. My buddy Damon is opening a second location of his custom car garage. He needs a partner, an investor. Baby, this is it. This is our way out. Every single instinct in my body was screaming at me to lie, to say the money was gone, to say no. But he was looking at me with that old charm, talking to me like I was his partner again, not his problem. And I was so starved for that feeling, so desperate to believe that money was our only issue, that I ignored every alarm bell. How much does he need? I heard myself ask. All of it, he said, a little too quickly. The whole 15. I know it's a lot, baby, but think about it. This is our chance. We'll make that money back in 6 months, easy. He moved closer, cupping my face in his hands, his touch gentle for the first time in years. And maybe once I'm not so stressed about money, we can really, focus on starting our family. It was the perfect bait, and I took it. I drained my savings account to zero and handed him every penny I had spent a decade saving. That night, he held me close and whispered promises in my ear about how everything was about to change. I had just handed him my entire future. And as it turned out, I had just paid for his. Funny thing about success, it's an amplifier. It doesn't change who you are. It just makes you more of who you've always been. For Marcus, that meant more arrogant, more dismissive, and more cruel. The custom car garage he started with my money took off. Within a year, he was making more than I'd ever seen, walking around like he was the king of the world, but that success never trickled down to our life together. If anything, things got worse. He started staying out later, smelling of expensive cologne I didn't buy him. He stopped talking to me like a wife and started talking to me like I was his assistant. The late-night texts with Isabel turned into hushed phone calls, which turned into visits to check on Leo, which turned into him not coming home at all some nights. Meanwhile, I was still working my retail job. Still struggling to make sure our bills were paid on time while he was dropping hundreds on designer clothes and client dinners I was never invited to. I was living with a successful stranger, sleeping alone in a bed that felt colder every night. The end came on a Thursday. I'll never forget it. I'd decided to make his favorite meal, a stupidly complicated lasagna, and I'd just gotten a small promotion at work. For the first time in months, I felt a tiny flicker of hope. I got home early, my arms full of groceries, and that's when I heard them voices. Coming from inside our house. Marcus's voice, and another one I knew instantly. Isabel. I stood frozen on my own front porch, listening. Listening to my husband laugh with his ex-girlfriend in the living room I had decorated. She's so pathetic, Isabel was saying, her voice dripping with a special kind of female cruelty. Still playing house, pretending this is a real marriage. My heart didn't just break. It stopped. Man, I can't keep this up much longer, Marcus replied. I'm making good money now. I don't need her anymore. So, what are you waiting for? Just divorce her. It's not that simple, he sighed. She might try to come after the business. And she, technically, helped me get it started. I heard Isabel laugh, a sharp, ugly sound. How much could she have possibly helped? And then, the final blow. The words that would echo in my head for years. Marcus laughed with her. 15 grand. Cleaned out her whole savings account. And you just took it? Isabel sounded impressed. Took it and ran, he said, full of pride. That woman is so desperate for me to love her, she'd probably give me a kidney if I asked nicely. They both laughed. They laughed at my hope, at my sacrifice, at the love I had poured into a man who saw me as nothing more than a bank account with legs. I backed away from the door, my entire body shaking, and sat in my car for 2 hours, just crying until I was empty. 3 days later, he threw a stack of papers on the kitchen table. Sign these, he said. What are they? I asked, though I already knew. Divorce papers. I want out, Alara. This isn't working. What isn't working? I whispered, the dish towel still in my hands. He shrugged, like we were discussing the weather. All of it. We don't have kids. We barely talk. And honestly, I just don't love you anymore. What about the business? I asked, my voice trembling. The money I gave you? He paused at the door and looked back at me, his face a blank mask. That was a gift, Alara. You can't take back a gift. Within a month, he and Isabel were living in my house. Within 3 months, the divorce was final and I was packing my life into the back of a beat-up Honda, driving away from the man who had taken everything from me. At 29 years old, I had nothing. No money, no house, no husband. I was starting from absolute zero, and the only place I had left to go was home to my mom. Mom was sick. She hadn't wanted to worry me, but the years of working 2 jobs to make ends meet had taken their toll. When I got there, I found a woman worn down by life, struggling to pay for her medications. She used to own a small restaurant, a beloved neighborhood spot that served soulful home cooking. But she'd had to close it down years ago. The building just sat there, empty and sad, a monument to a life that used to be. I was broken. Hollowed out. Most days I just stared at the ceiling, wondering how I could have gotten everything so wrong. It was during that dark time that I met Liam. He was a documentary filmmaker, hired by the city to capture stories of the neighborhood's revitalization. He kept coming by the old restaurant, asking my mom if he could film it. "I know it's closed," he'd say, his eyes so kind, "but this place has great bones. You can feel the love that went into it." I hid from him at first. I wasn't ready for people. But Liam was gently persistent. One day he found me on the back porch. "I don't have to talk to me," he said softly, "but can I just sit here with you? Sometimes it's nice just to have company." And so he sat. For months, he just showed up. He'd bring groceries for my mom, fix a leaky faucet, and just be there. He never pushed, never pried. He simply offered quiet, consistent kindness, something I had forgotten could even exist. Slowly, with his support, I started to rebuild. Not just my life, but myself. I started looking at that old restaurant not as a symbol of what was lost, but as a chance for what could be. An idea started to form. What if I reopened it, but as something new? Something for the way people live now. Healthy, affordable, grab-and-go meals. Meal prep services for busy families. Fresh food that nourished people, body and soul. I decided to call it Root and Stem. The idea was great, but ideas don't pay the bills. I got a job stocking shelves at a grocery store, working from 4 a.m. to noon. And spent every other waking hour in my mom's kitchen. Testing recipes, learning about nutrition. And building a business plan. Liam started documenting my journey. "I'm not asking for money," he said when I told him I couldn't pay him. "I'm asking to be a part of something real. I believe in you, Alara." For 2 years, I worked. 2 years of saving every penny, of saying no to everything that wasn't essential. 2 years of Liam asking me out on a date, and me gently saying, "I'm not ready." "I'm not going anywhere," he'd always say with a smile. "I'll be here when you are." And he was. Finally, when the restaurant was renovated and ready to open, and I was starting to feel like a whole person again, I finally said yes. Our first date felt like coming home. 6 months later, he proposed, quietly, in the middle of the kitchen at Root and Stem. We got married at the courthouse on a sunny afternoon. It was simple, it was real, and it was perfect. 3 months after our wedding, 2 miracles happened. First, a video Liam had made about my journey went viral online. Orders started pouring in from all over the country. Root and Stem exploded overnight. The second miracle happened a week later. I'd been working 18-hour days trying to keep up with the new demand, and I felt dizzy and sick. I thought it was just exhaustion. But a small, hopeful part of me wondered. I took a pregnancy test. It was positive. I took 2 more. Both positive. When I told Liam, he held me and cried with pure joy. But I was terrified. After years of being told I was broken, I couldn't let myself believe it. At our first ultrasound, I held my breath, bracing for bad news. The technician was quiet for a long time, and my stomach twisted into a knot. Finally, the doctor came in, holding my chart, a huge smile on his face. He looked from me to Liam, his eyes twinkling. "Well, I hope you two are ready for an adventure," he said. "Because we're not just seeing 1 healthy heartbeat. Or even 2. He turned the monitor towards us, pointing to 3 distinct, flickering little pulses on the screen. "Congratulations," he said, beaming. "You're having triplets." The pregnancy was a whirlwind. Carrying 3 babies was the hardest and most beautiful thing I've ever done. Our 3 daughters were born healthy and screaming, and holding them for the first time, I felt a sense of completion that healed wounds I didn't even know I still had. With Liam, with a man who was my true partner, my body hadn't just worked, it had created a miracle, times 3. The next few years were a beautiful, chaotic blur. Root and Stem grew beyond my wildest dreams, becoming a nationally recognized brand for healthy, honest food. We bought a house with a big backyard for the girls to run in. Liam left his filmmaking career to be a stay-at-home dad and support my dream, becoming the rock our family was built on. My life was full. It was peaceful. I had truly, finally moved on. And then, the past came calling. It was a Sunday afternoon. My mom's phone rang, an unknown number. I watched her face shift from confusion to a cold, hard anger I hadn't seen in years. She looked at me, her jaw tight. "Alara," she said. "It's Marcus." The name felt like a violation in my happy, peaceful home. He was getting married to Isabel. And he wanted to invite me. He told my mom to tell me he wanted to show his appreciation for how I helped him get his start in life. The audacity of it was breathtaking. This wasn't an invitation, it was a summons. He wanted me to be a spectator at his victory parade. He wanted to parade his beautiful new wife, his successful life, and his family in front of the broken, barren woman he'd left behind. He was staging my final humiliation. My first instinct was to burn the invitation. But as I talked it over with Liam that night, a different feeling started to bubble up inside me. Not revenge, but resolution. He has no idea who you are now, Liam said, his voice firm. He's inviting a ghost. He has no clue he's about to meet the woman you've become. He took my hand. So, we're going. All of us. He wants to see the family you couldn't give him? Fine. Let's show him the one you built without him. The day of the wedding, I didn't feel nervous. I felt calm. I chose a dress in a deep emerald green, a color of growth and strength. Liam looked like he'd stepped out of a magazine. And our daughters, dressed in matching sunny yellow dresses, were impossible to ignore. We arrived in a limousine, not to show off, but to show up on our own terms. The moment we walked into that ballroom, the air changed. I saw Marcus standing by the bar, laughing, looking every bit the successful man he pretended to be. Then his eyes found me. His smile didn't just fade, it froze. It shattered. I watched him try to process the scene, me, looking confident and happy, Liam, my handsome husband, standing by my side, and our 3 identical daughters, the living, breathing proof that his greatest lie about me was just that, a lie. The dinner was tense, but the real show started with the speeches. After a few friends spoke, Isabel, the new bride, took the microphone. She started sweetly, but then her eyes found me in the crowd. Marcus and I have been through so much, she said, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. He was married before, you see, to someone who just wasn't the right fit. For 6 long years, they tried to build a legacy, but some ground is just barren. A collective gasp went through the room. She was calling me out. Humiliating me in front of everyone. She raised her glass, a cruel smile on her face. But with me, he was fruitful. So tonight, we celebrate not just love, but a productive love. The room was thick with tension. This was it. The moment he had planned. He thought he had won. He had no idea I had come prepared to finish the war he had just declared. When the DJ asked if anyone else wanted to say a few words, I stood up. A hush fell over the room. Hello, everyone, I said, my voice clear and steady as I reached the microphone. For those who don't know me, my name is Alara. I'm Marcus's ex-wife. I looked at the bride and groom. Isabel, you look stunning. Marcus, I'm genuinely happy to see how well you've done for yourself. After all, I always knew that $15,000 of my life savings would be a fantastic investment in your future. A murmur went through the crowd. Marcus went pale. I heard your speech, Isabel, I continued, my voice softening with a dangerous calm. And I wanted to clear something up about that barren ground. For 6 years, Marcus convinced me that I was broken because I couldn't give him a child. I went through a year of painful, invasive tests, and every single doctor told me I was perfectly healthy. But Marcus always refused to get tested. He said he already had Leo as proof that he was fine. I let that hang in the air for a moment. Then I looked at Isabel, not with anger, but with something close to pity. The real tragedy here is that the lie didn't end with me. The truth, which I'm sure will be confirmed if you ever seek actual medical testing, is that Marcus was diagnosed with a genetic condition as a teenager. A condition that makes him completely and permanently sterile. He has never been able to father a child. The ballroom erupted in chaos. People were whispering, pulling out their phones. Isabel looked like she was going to faint. That means Leo isn't his biological son, I said, my voice cutting through the noise. And Isabel, your beautiful little girl isn't his either. The family you're celebrating tonight is built on the same devastating lie he built our marriage on. I paused, then gestured toward my husband. He invited me here tonight to see the family he claimed I could never give him. So I thought it was only fair to bring mine. Liam stood up, holding one of our daughters in his arms while the other 2 clung to his legs, looking around with wide eyes. This is my husband, Liam. The man who stood by me while I healed. And these, I said, my voice swelling with pride, are our daughters. Yes, triplets. It turns out, when you are with a man who loves you honestly instead of one who lies to you expertly, miracles are not just possible, they're plentiful. I looked directly at Marcus one last time. He was slumped in his chair, a broken man, publicly exposed as a fraud. So thank you, Marcus. Thank you for setting me free. If you hadn't discarded me, I never would have found the life I was truly meant to live. Please, everyone, enjoy the rest of your wedding. And with that, we walked out. We didn't run. We walked out with our heads held high, leaving the wreckage of his lies behind us. In the end, the woman who walked into that wedding with triplets On her hip and dignity in her heart wasn't the woman he remembered. She was the woman he had unknowingly created. The best revenge wasn't loud or angry. It was a life lived beautifully, honestly, and completely, far beyond the shadow of the man who tried to keep me small. So now I have to ask you. What would you have done? Would you have just ignored the invitation, or do you think I did the right thing? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. And please, before you go, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and maybe share it with someone who needs to hear it. We post stories like this all the time. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.